Hi, everyone. Welcome once again to the Adventure Travel Club television show. Betty, we are traveling down the Appian Way.
Yeah, we've done this several times, and
Beautiful.
when you know where you're heading, it makes it such an exciting adventure, doesn't it?
It really does.
Same trees.
This is so beautiful. You know, it used to be so far outside of Rome, but it seems like Rome kind of spreads as most every other place in the world does, too. Anyway, there are several different catacombs that are out here, and the interesting thing is that some of these catacombs are open on certain days of the week, and other catacombs are closed on certain days of the week. However, the one that we're going to today, of course, was open. They do not let you take pictures inside the catacomb, even though you'll see a few flashes now and then, but people aren't supposed to do that.
And you adhered to that?
Well, of course, you can see
Now
there's no picture
here,
is there?
you couldn't, though, really, could you? Because there was no light.
Well, we weren't taking that. We did let the camera just kind of roll a little bit so that we could let our viewers they see, what's going on there. What has happened, though, all over Europe and other places of the world where you were able at one time to take a lot of pictures, they kind of have closed that down now for an awful lot of people because everybody has got a camera and a video camera as well.
But Marv, that's just a matter of economics. They can sell the pictures, and that helps to keep the preservation of the catacombs up.
That's true. And this is the crypt of one of the popes right here, as you can see. I want to say the announcements.
Yeah, what are you going to say?
And here are some of the crypts. The carvings. I want to say the announcements, and I guess that's what it is too, to tell you who is where and who was buried in Grant's tomb.
Now, Marv,
but Grant wasn't buried there.
Excuse me so much for interrupting you, but I just wanted to make just some comment about this statue of this saint, and unfortunately, I don't know, I wrote it down somewhere and I don't remember who she was, but we kind of think it might have been Saint Agnes.
Could have been.
But it was so beautiful and so white marble, and the finger was pointing. The hand was up with a finger pointing to something.
And that she made the sign of the cross with her finger.
She
was a martyr. And as I recall, and that statue was a gift from someone in the state of New York, which was carved on the announcement, what I want to say again.
Well, the fact that she had her fingers making the sign of the cross, that's putting the forefinger over the thumb. And if you often watch the Mexican people, that when they bless themselves, they do that very same thing. Right. They cross their fingers over there and make the sign of the cross.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that do that. Betty, we're heading now back toward Rome, but we're going to come by the little church right here, which is a church at Quo Vadis. Now, do you know the story of that?
Yeah.
You want to tell us?
I think everybody knows that.
No, I don't think everybody does.
Well, Peter was really scared. He was leaving Rome
St. Peter was.
Who did I say?
Yeah.
Who did I say?
Well, St. Peter.
Did I call him Peter? I probably did, but he wasn't a saint then anyway.
No, not yet.
Because of the persecution that were taking place, and he was walking down the road, and he met Jesus on the way. And Jesus asked him where he was going, Quo Vadis. And he was so ashamed because he knew that he was deserting Jesus. So he turned around and went back to Rome. Is that right? You can.
I'll take it if that's what you say.
You can provide any more information.
You've been there more than I have. But the only thing is, we've never stopped to go inside that church because we're always on our way.
I don't think it's ever opened when we go by.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the doors were. I don't know. Maybe it was. Anyway, next time we go, we'll see if we can stop there. You can now see the walls of the Roman city of Rome. Of course, the Romans were so fantastic in what they built all over the known world at that particular time that they colonized every place. And of course, we know the biggest place that we think about so often, of course, is the Holy Land and the people being under Roman persecution. But here back in Rome, we can see that they do keep the walls up here, and you can see there by the scaffolding that things are being repaired. But Betty, what surprises me so much here is the thickness of these walls. Yeah. Now we're going to take a look right through this opening right here. If you look real carefully, you can see right there just how thick those walls actually are. No wonder they've stood for thousands of years.
But Father, I have association with priests a lot.
Well, you do a lot of shows with priests. That's why.
But you see, they needed that because that was a fortification.
Exactly.
That was for protection against enemies, and so the thickness of the walls was added years to their lives, and took years away putting them up though too, huh?
Oh yeah, Well, the Romans were such fantastic builders all through the centuries. And here we're looking at some of the ruins that are fenced off here, but that you can go see. The Roman Forum, all of the areas that we usually go by, and we're not stopping on this particular adventure here, but we have, of course, on other adventures to show you. But it's wonderful because the excavations are still going on. They're still going on.
You always thought the Forum was great. I just thought of it as a pile of rocks.
Oh, no.
I know there was a history there. I know.
The history was incredible.
But when I first saw it, I was all by myself, and I was looking. That was many years ago. And how boring. I mean.
Well, unless you know a little bit about it or with the guy.
Be, huh?
Now, this pyramid, as we can see, is built right into the walls here. And, there, of course, Rome also had Egypt under its rule for many, many years. So there are a lot of Egyptian obelisks and things that are in Rome that we'll see. But now, anyway, we have ventured on to St. Paul outside the walls. And this is a major basilica in Italy. It is also the burial place of St. Paul. And as early as the year 200, it was the burial place, and it was marked. Constantine was the one that built this, wasn't he?
Oh, he was a wonderful advocate of the church and of the spreading of Catholicism, of the true church. Yeah.
Now, what gets me, Betty, and I really sort of took a look this time. If you look at this church here, St. Paul outside the walls, the way that it is constructed, and you can see all of these pillars, of course, very much in the Roman style of that day, as a lot of the pagan temples were built as well. But remember, we visited earlier the St. John Lateran, and St. John Lateran, being the first Christian church in Rome, it was also built in the same style. It's more of a boxy type of looking things, again with columns as such. And I think most of us think of churches so much, in the old world as being Gothic type of churches with all of the gingerbread and everything on it. But this was not, of course.
Well, you keep talking about it looks like a box. It sure doesn't look like a box to me.
Well,
it's elongated and narrow-like. Where do you get the box?
Because it's more like a box. It's not pointed like you see the Gothic churches,
Well, I guess, but it does. Boxes to me is forced. They usually have the same size on each side. They're square, aren't
well, it doesn't have to be a square box.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of, a square box, and it definitely was not a square box.
No. Anyway, we just saw the Holy Doors there that was presented by Pope Gregory VII, and now we're looking inside. Now, that doesn't look like a box to you?
No, that looks like a long corridor.
Okay, well, corridor box. Anyway, it's in a different shape.
But it's beautiful.
It
and
is
look
absolutely
at the floor.
Gorgeous. It really is.
Oh, my. Of course, they had lots of marble available to
them.
Because the mountains were what were they? Metamorphic, so they must have had a lot, the marble within the mountains.
Well, and marble was not a real expensive thing to work with, as it is here. In the year 1823, a fire started because of the negligence of workmen who were repairing the lead roof, and the whole basilica was destroyed. And, of all of the churches in Rome, this one has preserved its primitive character for 1,435 years. But they were restoring it, and the Viceroy of Egypt sent the pillars that we see of alabaster.
Now, do you remember, excuse me, I always am interrupting you, but when you say alabaster, do you remember when we went to Los Angeles, to the cathedral in Los Angeles? The windows were alabaster. And so when you see solid, like rock, of alabaster. Don't you just wonder how can it be the same thing?
Well, it is. It depends on how you slice it.
Yeah,
Actually,
whatever
we've
you
seen some
slice
other
it.
churches that have had alabaster transparent walls too. I think I believe it was
Yes.
in Germany, if I'm not mistaken.
The whole church, all the walls
Yeah,
were.
the whole church.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Emperor of Russia gave malachite and lapis for the tabernacle here in the church, and it is just beautiful. We can see right here all of the popes, the little round pictures that you see right there.
Yeah.
All of the popes have been depicted there in this church. And this goes all the way around the church, and it's really very interesting to see.
Was our Pope right now, Pope John Paul, was he up there?
I think so.
I think he was.
I think so. Yeah. We've been here at the church several times, and every time you go, you notice something a little bit different. And so I think once before we were there, he's way over on the right-hand side, if I'm not mistaken. This here is the tomb and the relics of the Apostle St. Paul.
The piece de resistance. That's what you want to see when you go there.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the priests and the bishops. Of course, when they visit Rome, they really want to say Mass here at the tomb of St. Paul, as well as at the tomb of St. Peter that we saw earlier in the Vatican.
Yeah,
but this is a very important place.
Yeah, I think it's obligatory when
It
they
might
go
be.
for their ad limina.
As far as the bishops are concerned?
Yes, I think the bishops have to say Mass here, and St. John, what's the other one? St. John Lateran. The three churches.
The three churches.
Yeah, the three.
Well,
St.
that makes
Peter's
good sense. But
yeah.
isn't this beautiful, Betty?
Oh, yeah.
And this is the ceiling. Now, this is just a shot on the ceiling alone. And you can see throughout this whole building how beautiful the ceiling is and how much work must have gone into this.
How did you get that? Did you lay down on the ground, or
Almost.
did you? Because how's your neck?
It was a little stiff
little
afterwards,
stiff?
yeah. These of course, are some of the things that they found here in the early days. And there's a beautiful courtyard here. Betty, I think in the early days there were also 2 monasteries here. Is that right?
Sure, they took care of the women. There was one for the women, and actually, Saint Stephanos, they called it, for the women.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had the manse, and it was a really thriving area. And the popes were good with their monetary contributions that really helped to keep it going. Other than that it would have been impossible, because where would they ever get their money there with being in the church like that?
Yeah, these columns here sort of remind you of Bernini's columns in the Vatican, the ones that have such character as we see right here, and the mosaics that you can see that are inlaid here too.
Yes.
I always kind of thought that was a modern thing, but it's not. I mean, you're looking back centuries and centuries and centuries.
Yeah, it's shapes like the with the curly cues like that, like at St. Peter's, but that looks like a snake. The
diamondback.
Isn't
on
it crazy how impressions
things
you
remind
get
you
from
of it, right?
something? Yeah.
Now they do have a little museum here and also a gift shop, and so we went in there. And Betty, you know what this is? What is this right here?
Oh, that is a marker, to mark the grave of St. Paul.
So they knew where to find him.
So they knew where to find
Right.
him. Yeah.
And this is one of the old Bibles, of course, beautifully illustrated, that is here in St. Paul's outside the walls of Rome. Absolutely very, very beautiful.
They did so much of this magnificent illustration.
Right.
What talented people these monks were.
Very much so. Well, we've gone back to the hotel to have a little cappuccino, and then it's a ride on the underground or the subway. And for some of these people, it's the first time that they have been on a subway. And, subways, some people say, I'm a little scared. I don't know if I want to travel on that. But it's easy to do, and it's also a lot of fun, and it's also very inexpensive. And you can get around Rome underground very, very efficiently just by using the subway.
Even I can do that.
Yeah.
Who gets lost.
Yeah, right. Well, in fact, you and I took one, I think, that evening. We wanted to go back to the Spanish Steps. And so we got on the subway, and we had a good time. They're very crowded, of course, especially at the peak traffic hours. And speaking of the Spanish Steps, here we are. Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an inexpensive way to travel also, and you don't have the traffic. And,
Costs €1.
yeah. Now, this is one of my favorite places. I've been here several times, and it's really a place for students more than other.
Why do you say that?
Well, you come during school time or any time actually,
Yeah.
and the young kids, they just take over. This is all theirs. Some of them even go flopping around in the water that you see there. But now today it's not.
Well, because it's winter time, right?
But there's sometimes that you go that you have to kind of thread your way up the steps in order to get to the top.
The first time I visited this, it had been many years ago, they had huge pots of azaleas out there. And so it was just a mass of color of red and white and pink colors, because the azalea pots were just absolutely everywhere over the Spanish Steps, and it was just beautiful. But like you say, very, very crowded. Now, of course, this is November when we're visiting. You can see because everybody's got their jackets on. And I think you're right, Betty, about the students, because look at the gum that's there on the steps.
Isn't that gross? It is truly gross.
But you're right. I have seen in the summertime, it gets very, very warm in Rome during the summertime. And so a lot of the fountains that we say, hey, there's some of our people down there.
Oh, yeah.
And people will take their shoes off and put their feet in the fountains, and they want to get themselves a little bit refreshed. Maybe that's why the Romans built so many fountains all over Rome.
Well, the fountains are fine, but right down about 3 blocks there is a McDonald's for if you want some. And they actually serve beer.
At McDonald's?
At McDonald's in Rome.
Not
yes.
wine?
Beer. But I mean, even anything alcoholic is shocking for me at a McDonald's. You only think.
Well, when in Rome, do as the Romans, right?
That's right. Now, see, that fountain is in the shape of a barge or a boat of some kind.
Yeah, it's a boat, right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
very stylistic.
so it's very symbolic.
And there's, around this area, there's some very fancy shopping to be done, right?
Is it expensive?
Yes, indeed.
Ooh, it was
Indeed,
fun
rather.
just to look in the window and imagine people paying those kind of prices.
Well, that was it. I mean, you and I walked around, and we went back there during the evening time, and we saw some of the prices on this thing. Went, oh my golly! I guess there are people that have that kind of money to spend.
Well, this is the place to go to get something from a designer. And I guess so you can come home and say, oh, yes, I bought this at, what is it, Via
Veneto?
Veneto,
Yeah, this is
Veneto.
down the way from that. Now, that's the Embassy of Spain right here, as we see. And that is where the Spanish Steps actually derives its name from the Embassy of Spain. And we can see right here their flag and outside, and also the emblems of Spain. But we have now walked a little ways away from there, just not very far, and we have come now to the Fountain of Trevi. And of course, everybody wants to make a little pilgrimage. We're on a pilgrimage anyway, but everybody wants to make a pilgrimage to the Fountain of Trevi and throw the coins in to ensure that you will come back to Rome.
3 coins in the fountain.
There's more than 3 in there, let me tell you, right?
But it was water wasn't running today, and
well, it was a little bit,
there.
but not it wasn't up to full speed.
Usually it's spouting, and
right? Yeah.
And of course you can't. We do a lot of churches. Of course, this is part of ours. We do it as this particular one was a pilgrimage, but we do so many other things besides, because there's more to the world than churches.
Oh, that's true.
And you come this distance and you want to see just as much as you can see, and do as much as you can do, and have as much fun as you can have.
Absolutely. Here's Neptune right in the center of the fountain, as we can see here. And Betty, I think you're right, because if I'm not mistaken, I think there's more water that comes out of this, and it may be different times of day that they turn the water on. But again,
there we go. Look at it.
Throw that coin in. Just make sure that you're going to come back to Rome.
Our little gal.
Did you do it every time you've been to Rome?
No, because I know I'm going back. I don't have to throw. I'll save my coin and buy something with it.
Now, right around the corner, we discovered. See, this doesn't look like very much from the outside, but it was another church, and we went inside just to make a real short visit to take a look and see what it's like. And it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. You can discover these all over the place. This monument is very, very interesting. Again, we're kind of on a walking tour of Rome, and we're not very far. All these places that you see are fairly close together. And I believe that this column here shows a whole history, a whole Roman history. It is very intricate the way that it has been
the carved,
and
yes.
it's a marvelous thing to see.
Think
I think that's the first time that I saw this one.
Do you think they carved it lying down, or do you I mean, and then rolled it, or do you well,
hey, that's a good question.
I don't know. Because but probably
the carver's long gone since now.
I know.
So.
I'm sure there was more than one carver on that.
Evidently. And again, we were talking about obelisk, and there were several that have been shipped in
from
Egypt, and here we can see one. Now, there's another one here. We're almost...
Oh, there's the Republican Party advertised there in Rome.
We're almost beside the Parthenon here, and there's a church that we want to go into because... And again, it doesn't look like too much from the outside, but you get on the inside and it's absolutely beautiful. But there is a statue here that Michelangelo carved. I didn't know it was here, and our guide said, "Oh, come on, we must go into this little church." And we said, "Okay." And then beside the statue, look at the beautiful windows that we see up here. I mean, the church was just exquisite inside. And by and large, you would have probably have walked right past the church, not knowing that it had anything there or that all this beautiful artwork was inside. But I wanted to get a couple of pictures in here because this just shows you everywhere you go in Rome, just open a door and bingo, you are going to be treated to such wonderful artwork just everywhere. And this is not the statue, but we're going to see the statue in just a moment. But this was one that was illuminated. A lot of times, there's not too much light in some of these churches, and it was getting rather on in the day. But here's the statue that Michelangelo carved of Jesus and the cross, and we can see it. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful statue. I didn't know it was there. Did you?
See, it didn't hit me as being so great because it's not massive like most of his works are, and the detail, and I guess perhaps it's lovely. Of course, I mean I'm not denigrating it. Yeah, I am, but to me it like when you think of the Pietà and the Michelangelo, and
but you know
not
what?
Michelangelo, but Moses.
Oh, you mean the ones that
that
he carved? Yeah. Well, the thing is that some of those were just more publicized, I think, than others were.
So. Beautiful face, and the body, the carving, the muscles, everything in it.
Now here we are, just right around the corner from that little church, and this is, of course, the Pantheon, and it's one of the most impressive buildings in Rome. It was designed as a temple by Agrippa. And, of course, he was one of the Caesars. And in the year...
He was one of the what?
Caesars. This was in the year 27 B.C. And then, of course, as Christianity came in, it has been turned into a church, and it was dedicated to Our Lady. And we can see this is beautiful inside. But now what a lot of people don't realize is that we just saw a little opening, and you see right there at the top of your screen, and that is open. That's not a skylight. That is absolutely open. So when it rains, it gets wet inside here. Fortunately, they have the marble floors, as we'll see. But this is also a burial place of Raphael and also Victor Emmanuel, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was the first king of Italy when the states came together and Italy became a nation. But there's some beautiful artwork inside the Pantheon, and it's a great place to visit. In fact, I think it's a must that you must see, because it's very, very important, and it has stood for so many centuries.
It too on the outside is very unimpressive. I think
true.
It truly is. And then you go inside and you see it's very well preserved. We were there, like Marv said, in November, and there were a few little wet spots from some rain, but it houses so many important things, and they're all done so beautifully. When I looked at it at the outside, I tell you, who first introduced this to me was Monsignor Hayes. We went over there, and he said, "Oh, Betty, we have to go there.
You have to see it."
And so that, yeah.
Victor Emmanuel II, father of the country. And that's the tomb right there. And, of course, that there's a huge, great big building in Rome that is the Victor Emmanuel monument, which they call the wedding cake, that I'm sure that you've seen before.
Sure.
Now this is the piazza in front of the Pantheon, and now we've moved on because we were doing, as we say, a walking tour, and we found this huge, great big fountain. Everyone wants to take a look inside. I don't know what they're looking for, but.
Well, I'm looking to see if there's any money in there so we
that could be.
Pay for the subway.
Now we've gone on to another area in Rome, and again, there is a church that's kind of right in the center of this, but there are also two beautiful fountains. The one that you're just seeing a little bit right there is a fountain that was designed by Bernini.
Talk about the girl right now, because
she's one of the street performers.
Just a performer, like the mimes that you see in
right.
San Francisco.
And you see these, you see the street performers all over. In fact, you see them all over over Europe.
Yeah.
But especially you see a lot of them in Rome. You see a lot of them in Florence as well. And they do a little performance there. She might have a little boom box, doing a little bit of music as such. And it's whether they're probably students or whatever, the way to make a little bit of money.
But she swallowed that. That's
What?
Fire.
She was a fire eater?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't stay around that much. No.
And that's a pretty big load to put in your mouth, isn't it? Huh?
Well, and this is on the other end. This is another fountain that we can see over here,
Why
and I
is
don't
it
have
pink?
much information on that. It's just the lighting that you see here. It's just the lighting on it.
Because it was dusk
It was getting dark.
when
That's
we
true.
were there. Yeah.
But I was around here for a little while just so I could get some pictures, and then I found a beautiful toy store that was on this little square. And so I went over there, and there were several other people in our group that wanted to buy a few things too, because this was just, I believe this was our last night in Rome, so we wanted to get a few little souvenirs that we could take home and share with everyone.
This is one of the most popular tourist places in day and night. They have little cafes all around. Cost me $10 to buy a small beer.
Whoa,
$10.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You should have gone to McDonald's.
But oh no, that was not the same place or the same atmosphere.
Well, now we're getting a little bit of a long shot. Again, another obelisk, and there you can see the church, and we can take a look here at both fountains on either end. And it's a beautiful place to visit. But as I say, almost any place you want to go on a walking tour of Rome, you will just be treated to so much, and it is so beautiful. And I like it even at this time sort of in the twilight. Well, Betty, that's just about all the time that we have, but we do want to remind everybody that we have some trips coming up. So if you're interested, Betty has some brochures, and she's getting new brochures on some of the other trips that we have planned for a little bit in the future. Give her a call at
488-7443.
And we'll be glad to send those out to you. And we hope that you enjoyed our pilgrimage, which started in Portugal and, of course, ended in Rome. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.